Howdy folks, in this particular lecture I'm going to show you to install PostgreSQL, which is a relational database software, relational database management software. So you got a lot of different kind of SQL based servers, okay? So PostgreSQL is one of them. So the problem you have is basically whether you're installing it into your Windows operating systems or server side operating systems. So we're gonna work with Debian 13, which is the latest of Linux servers, okay, in Debian based. All the godfather of all the operating system you can think of in the server side comes under two different forms. So it's advanced package technology, which is Debian, and then you have Red Hat. So obviously this particular lecture is basically helping people who wants to get into web applications development. Okay, so the developer side, like Java full stack web applications, and they want to work with a home lab, so they're going to set up their own home lab and work with them in terms of creating their web application and deploying it into the server, and then showcase some portfolio to land into their first Java developer job, which is a decent sum to entry level job, is 60,000 to 70,000 US dollars a year. So if you wanna get into Debian, and if you wanna get into how to work with Debian, then I made another lecture not too long ago, and it was basically Debian 13 set up an intro, and that's on the YouTube link as well. So this is basically a PostgreSQL, which is RDBMS, a relational database management software or relational database management system that you want to install into your Debian 13 system. So let's jump right in. So you need that for you need MySQL as well. Okay, so you're going to be working with Postgres or MySQL when it comes to Java developers. You hardly work with Microsoft SQL Server, so don't worry about that. So what we're going to do is, this is a Debian 13. So let's jump right instead of the command line, and then from here I'm gonna go straight to the super user. Okay, so it's su-l and then the password. Okay, so now I'm a super user, and if I just type who am I, it tells you your root, and if you do pwd, is the root directory, but I want to get into root, so now I'm root. Okay, so that's the first thing. You can do apt update at this point, it's not necessary. It's basically see whether there is any updates available for your systems. Okay, so in my cases it's gonna be all fine. So clear this screen, give you the room, and then what is basically PostgreSQL. So PostgreSQL is not installed. So how do you check it that it is not installed? So you do PSQL and version. Okay, so PSQL command not found. Okay, that basically means PostgreSQL is not installed. SQL, or structured query language, is relational database management systems. Okay, so that is something that you see everywhere. So everything that you can think of, everything goes into tables, and the tables gets normalized, and then it gets into databases, and the best database that hangs around everywhere. You can think about any web applications, from eBay to PayPal, from your Amazon to YouTube. You're talking about Facebook. Everything's in the database, and this database is usually MySQL or MariaDB or PostgreSQL. Very rarely people utilize Microsoft SQL Server, and that is utilized for different things like data analytics and business intelligence and so on, and that is a totally different area. So if you're working as a developer to create web applications enterprise levels, you'd be either working with Postgres or MySQL. So this lecture is about PostgreSQL installations into Debian 13. So you can see pSQL. Also, SQL, structured query language. Okay, you can pronounce it as SQL, which is like very British, and that's why I don't use it, because I don't utilize British English. It is pronounced as SQL as well. Okay, so you can pronounce it as SQL, and that I find more comfortable, and that's more phenomenal, and that's more common in everywhere in the world, apart from some part of Europe like Britain or some other countries where they pronounce it as SQL, which I find dumb and very old-fashioned, ramshackle. So you can pronounce it as SQL. Okay, so in this lecture I'm gonna most likely pronounce it as SQL. Okay, because I hardly say SQL, that I find it very odd. So this is a PostgreSQL. Okay, so the Postgre, people often say post SQL. I don't speak like that. So that is very British. Okay, post. So it's PostgreSQL. Okay, so when I say PostgreSQL, it's PostgreSQL. So that's the difference. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is, so I'm gonna kind of, screen size. Okay, so important so that you can see me. So from here, So the command is not difficult. Okay, so the PostgreSQL actually comes with server. In any kind of Linux servers, it actually comes in. Don't go into third party looking into it because it's gonna cause issues. So what we're going to do, you have a PostgreSQL. Actually, you have. Let me just show you before I go further. So you have PostgreSQL. If you're going to Google in Firefox or any other web browser, you can just type PostgreSQL here, and then you ended up coming to the PostgreSQL website. Okay, so this is the one, and then download, and you can click download, and then you can go into Linux, and then look into Debian, and then you can Trixie. It says Trixie how to do it. It's Trixie. You can do this way. Okay, that's not a bad idea. PostgreSQL apt because it supports the current version of Debian. So it says what you need to do in here. Okay, and if you want to do that way, it's not a bad idea at all. Okay, so that will install PostgreSQL. It says the PostgreSQL apt repository supports the current version of Debian 13, and it shows what you need to do. Okay. One thing you notice about this, all these command in here. There's a lot of complications in terms of code names, etc., etc. So why don't we just skip that for now? Okay, which minimize the screen and do a basic things. Okay, so we do apt install PostgreSQL. Okay, and then you need a country file as well. So PostgreSQL -country. Okay, just make sure that you don't make any spelling mistake. So it's apt install PostgreSQL and then PostgreSQL country, and see what happens. Press enter, and I think it will just work out fine. Installing PostgreSQL, yes. Press enter. So that probably will cut all those things that you've seen in PostgreSQL website doing all that crap. You can do that way as well. So there's nothing wrong with that, because these are server applications. Okay, these are server software. Okay, they're not Windows, so they will come with all the different things that you need for your server implementations in deployment of your web applications, Java and so on. So far everything's looking good. So once we do that, we got a few things that we need to resolve. So just bear with me, because it's not as straightforward as one may think in terms of working with database, relational database management system. It's not just PostgreSQL, it's the same with MySQL. We gotta have to change certain things. So now this is installed. Now if we type SQL or psql version, and it should show you the version installed. There's 17.5, and that's the exact version that you've seen in here. Okay, so these guys are installed in the 17.5, 17.6 or whatever. Okay, yeah, PostgreSQL 17. So the PostgreSQL is installed, but that is just a drop on the bucket. Okay, so there's a lot of things. It's not gonna work, so you're gonna have to stay with me and follow the lecture all along. So from here, what we're going to do is basically we're going to do systemctl status and then PostgreSQL. Okay, and press enter, and it's showing that it's loaded, it's active, and so on. And then we're going to do what we call systemctl start PostgreSQL. Systemctl start PostgreSQL. Okay, so it's started, and then we're going to enable it so that every time you actually shut down the machine and turn it back on, it automatically starts. Okay, so we do systemctl enable PostgreSQL. So that will create a symbolic link, and you'll see, and what it means is basically is it executing, and it creates a synchronization state, so that it creates a script with sysserver. What it means is basically from now on in Linux servers, every time your Linux system is reboot, it should work fine. Now what we need to do is the PostgreSQL comes with the Postgres, it doesn't have any password, and it causes complications. So before we do anything else at this point of time, don't remove anything, because you need all this. code. Okay, so what I would suggest to you is basically you can select all, and then you can copy that, and then what I would usually do is basically I put it in a notepad or something. So there should be some notepad in here. Let's just find one of the notepad in Debian 13, and this one called text editor. That's one of my favorite one, and this is actually gedit text editor. So we're gonna add to the panel right here. Okay, so press enter, press click. Oh, so basically, oh no, this is not the one that I needed actually. Let's get rid of this one. I don't like this one. Unpin from the panel. The one that I'm looking is called gedit. Okay. You could never be prepared for it in lectures, you know, so it always gets a little. Well, let's just search in here gedit. Gedit is not installed into the system, so what we're going to do at this point, okay, before we do anything, we do apt install gedit. Okay, so it should install it. The system didn't come with gedit, so you need to install gedit because that's a lot more easier to work with. Okay, so install gedit. Right, okay, so the gedit install, and you will find it somewhere in accessories now. Let's find it here. So I'll pin it up to the panel. So this is the one. So what I'm gonna do now is we do Control V, and then you have your whatever code you've done. Okay, so you don't need gedit, so you install gedit if you wanna do that. That's fine, but I don't think you need to say apt install gedit. You know, so this is all cool. So you save that file as PostgreSQL. So at this point, I'm just gonna save it right here, so save some time. Postgres installation Debian 13. Okay, dot txt. Okay, save it as txt file, save test file. Okay, so that's cool. So we're gonna keep that file just like the way it is. We minimize that screen and carry on doing whatever. So now we have saved it, we can clear the screen. So now what we need to do is basically we're gonna follow certain commands to look into whether it's actually working in our favor or not. Okay, so we do su minus Postgres. Okay, so and then it's asking you, so you're in the Postgres right now. Okay, so from here we're gonna create a password for the Postgres. So the Postgres is your username, so it doesn't have any password at the moment. So the command is PSQL and then a minus C, that is a capital C or a small c actually, and then you have alter user, so make it is in double quote. Okay, alter user Postgres with password. So don't worry about the SQL command at this point, because if you're learning SQL, you'll learn this, and it's not that hard. And Pantera 69. So let's say the password is Pantera 69. Okay, so that's a single quote. Okay, and then double quote. Okay, so once you do that, it should say alter role, and if it does, that means basically you are successful with all these installations. And if it doesn't, it show that, oh yeah, there is some kind of a cluster issues, then it means Debian 13 is going to cause significant amount of issues for your PostgreSQL. So let's see how it goes. So it's PSQL minus C and then alter user Postgres with password and press enter. Alter role. So that's all good. And the reason it is all good because PostgreSQL is going to work just fine now. Okay. So we need these commands. So we don't want to do anything at this point. So at this point, what are we going to do? We're going to type PSQL. And then you should be able to get into Postgres. So now you're in Postgres, absolutely brilliant. So from here, what we're gonna do is everything is all looking good. So we're gonna see that connection is been established. So do /con info. Okay. So it's basically telling you connection information. It should show that you connected database Postgres is all Postgres by socket, and show you the socket port or like 5432 or something. Here we go. So you're connected to database Postgres is the user Postgres by socket / var run Postgres as port 5432. This is all good news. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a user called gooncat. Okay, so we're gonna create user. So create user gooncat. Okay, so this is the username gooncat with password. Okay, and the password is going to be Neptune69. Okay, and then single quote finish, and then semicolon, finish with semicolon. So create user gooncat with password Neptune69, and you say create role. So that's cool. So and you can see /du and semicolon, and you say the gooncat is created. So we're gonna create we can create a database. So we're gonna create a database called Wildcats. Okay, so create database. Okay, Wildcats, and then press semicolon, press enter. So create database has been created. Now we're gonna giving the privileges for accessing everything from that particular database. Okay, so what we're gonna grant all privilege on database Postgres. Okay, to gooncat. That's something that we're gonna do first. Okay, so grant all privilege, privileges, grant all privileges on databases, on database Postgres. So Postgres is one of the database. Okay, to gooncat. Okay, and semicolon. That should do grant. That's cool. And grant all privilege. Grant all privileges on database Wildcats, the one that we just created, to gooncat. So gooncat is the user, right? Okay, so error sentence. Oh, sorry, I made some mistakes in the. So you see the spelling is critically important. My apology. It's actually LE. There we go. And press enter. So grant. And that's all good. And now what you can do is basically, if you look into /l, it shows you that Wildcats database is there, your Postgres is there, and so on. That's all cool. And then what we need to do is basically exit from here. Okay, so exit. And now in Postgres you can actually exit from here as well. Okay, so just say exit. So now you're in the root, okay, and from the root we're gonna exit from here as well. So one of the problem you may face at the moment now, but you are not really a super user, and now if you do PSQL -u, okay, that's user, and the user is gooncat, and press enter, see what happened. You see the error, connection to server on socket, 543 failed, fatal, peer authentication failed for user gooncat, and that problem is something to do with you not being a root user. Okay, so we need to resolve this issue, but this issue is not going to be prevalent if we want to try to do these things into our root user. So do -l. Okay, and then do your login in here, and now if you do su -gooncat, it will ask you the password. Sorry, so I made mistakes here. You do su -Postgres. Okay, so it's asking you the. So you're in the Postgres. So now you can do PSQL -u. Okay, and then you can do gooncat. Okay, and then it's gonna say a connection problem. Okay, it's saying the connection problem. Right. Okay. So this issue, we need to resolve this issue one at a time. Okay. So what we need to do is saying the connection issue is basically something to do with your PGSQL configuration file. Okay. So at this point, we're gonna exit and don't do anything. Whatever you have done so far, you need to select all and keep a record, copy all that, and go right back there. And I'll just paste it right here. Okay. So from here there are a few things that we need to do. Okay. So the way we're gonna do it is very simple. Okay, so we can save this file first. Okay, we're gonna leave it the way it is. We can clear this screen right now. Okay, there's a lot of way of doing this kind of stuff, so this is really important to understand. So you may feel very intimidating because probably if you have not done any Linux systems in the past, you may face that issue. Okay, so you probably will face that issue. Okay, so what we need to do is basically we're gonna look into a different way of resolving these issues. Okay, and let's take a look. Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to find the files, okay, and change certain things. Okay, so we can do it from here if we want to. Let's just do it from here first. Okay, so ls -l. Okay, so nothing there, cd root. So let's just do it from here. So let's just take a look where we are. So do ls -l first. Okay, and then what we need to do is to go to cd etc. Okay, and then do cd postgre. Okay, so the postgre is there, ls -l, and you see something called a postgres. Okay, so do cd postgres. That's very weird. It's showing Postgres, but it is not allowing me to get in there, which is very weird. Right, okay, let's just go into file manager first. Okay, so let's take a look into file systems, go to etc, and then there will be something called PostgreSQL right here. Let's just do it from here first. Okay, PostgreSQL, and then you have 17. Oh, sorry, the 17. Where is the 17? I think it's called 17. Sorry, that's why I got the cd 17. Here we go, ls -l, and then you have this file called main. Okay, so do main, cd main. Okay, ls -l, and then you see there are files there. So a couple of files that we need to change here. So one of the file is called, you can look into confd, you can look into file manager right here as well. Okay, so let's take a look into the confd, and in here there's nothing there. That's cool. So the file that we're looking at is pghba configuration file, but also we're looking at a file called PostgreSQL configuration file. But because these files are root permission, you need a root permission for that. That's why it's not really straightforward to do it over into your file manager. So we are already root in the command line, so it's a lot more easier to do that. So we do nano PostgreSQL. Okay, so this is the file. So this is the real file. So whatever change you make, just make sure that you know what you're doing. And then what we need to do here, we need to make some changes. So just click down arrow, and in here make sure that the records, so the data directory is library PostgreSQL 17 main, HBA file, Look at this HBA file, where is it? So this is cool, okay. And then if you just carry on going downwards, you see something called connection settings, listen address. So we need to open that, okay. So we're gonna open that, and always remember PostgreSQL listen to a port called 5432. It says in here, so we're gonna open that, like uncomment it, so delete that. And we want, it's mentioned very clearly here, when IP address is listen up, what we need is asterisk signs, okay. Default to localhost or use asterisk for all. So this is what we need. So we're gonna change that localhost to star sign. So star sign means it can take any connections, and that's cool. That will come in our favor, okay. So you just need to make the changes, and remember the port is 5432, and it's all looking good. There's nothing else you need to change from here. Unix socket directory is quite cool. We'll run PostgreSQL, that's what we needed, and all looking good, okay. And now Control X and then Shift Y and press enter. So that's one file's done, out of the way. And the other one is PGHBA configuration. So nano do PGHBA. So now in this file we're gonna make certain changes, so just bear with me. So at the bottom of this file, okay, so don't change anything in here. At the bottom of this file you can see something what we need to change, okay. So IPv4, okay. So you have the database administrator login by Unix, okay. So so in here the changes we're gonna make is basically MD5, okay. So we have a database administrator login by Unix domain socket. That is also peer, local all Postgres peer, okay. So that can stay there for now, okay. So we're not too much concerned about it at this point. Actually we can take a look. We cannot take a look, so sorry. So in here IPv4 address, okay. So we're gonna change these, okay. So we're gonna have to change certain of these, especially this IPv4 address, okay. And where it has says peer, okay, this peer, all this peer. The one thing I want to do before I do anything in here is basically this file. I don't want to change this file right now, because I want to copy this file, okay, because this is the real file. And I do think what we do need to change in here is all this peer to MD5, okay. And also I think I need to change these stuff here as well, you know, the IP address right here. These should be 0 all 0, okay. And if we do that, everything should work out fine. But before we do any changes, I just want to save this file. So Control X. So what we need to do is at this point I'm going to copy this file. So cp nano PG HBA, okay. So this file, that's your source file, and that's going into our /home /megan, okay, and /documents maybe, okay. So we're gonna copy that file right there, okay. Now that's cool. So that file has been copied over there. So if you go into your home directory and you go to documents, this file is there, and that's your original file, okay. You can give a permission to this file, you can do whatever you want, but that's your original file. Just leave it there. We're going to resolve these issues later on, because I don't want to spend too much time just returning command and so on. So now we go back to our nano PGHBA, and now we're going to start making changes, because we have already saved the original files. You can always bring the original file right here. And the changes I'm going to make, I'm going to go with my instinct in here. Okay, so local Postgres, you can see that one in here, okay. That one I'm not sure, we need to change. Local is Unix domain socket, that is definitely you need to change to MD5, okay. So change that to MD5, okay, and is MD5, okay. And then IPv4 address, we're going to change these ones to 000. So that basically means it can take all IP address, okay. And then just change that 32 to 0, don't worry, so we know what we're doing. So change that to MD5 as well. And this one IPv6 is not really that important, so just change that to 00, and then here change that to MD5 as well. Okay, so that's all done, out of the way. Okay, so Postgres database administrator login by Unix domain socket, change that to MD5 as well. Okay, so because when we do the database, what we call it, PostgreSQL's, we got PostgreSQL PG admin, we need to change that anyhow, so we do that as well. Now Control X, Shift Y, press enter. So this part is out of the way. Now what we do need to do is systemctl restart PostgreSQL. So we do systemctl restart PostgreSQL, press enter. So now that's going to restart PostgreSQL. We made a lot of changes, so that's why it's taking a bit of a while. So what's done? Systemctl enable PostgreSQL. Okay, so that's all good. So loop SQL version, it tells you is 17.5. Now this part is out of the way. I think we should be all good to go by doing it as non-root user. Okay, I'm hoping. Okay, so what we do need to do now is we do exit. Okay, and then now we are, who am I? I'm just a root user. Okay, so from here we are in the root, and that's all good. And then we what we're gonna do is basically we type /du, and then it was my problem, sorry. I should have made that command. It was a huge command I made, but don't worry, we'll get to that. So from here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create some breathing area. Okay, so from here, let's just copy all that. Copy this bit, okay. Copy that bit, and then go back in here. So when you actually do this next time, then you know what you're doing. Okay, so save that file, and then go back to your command line. Now you can actually remove all that. You can remove all that, clear the screen. So now what we need to do is the command we're gonna issue it psql -u Postgres, and it should be okay now actually. And it's asking for the password, you see, because we've changed that configuration file, and it was Panther SSD9. So now you're in PostgreSQL. So now you can type /du, and it shows you this, and you can also do /l to see the databases. So we created a wildcast database as well. So from here we can do /q, come out from here, and it comes out right away. So now check the guncat, so and that should work as well. And why it is working? Because we changed the configuration file, you see. So guncat, and then press enter, and it asks you the password. And this time password is Neptune69. Database. Probably made some mistakes here. Let's just do it again. SQL -u. The username was guncat for sure, and it's asking you the password. The password is Neptune69. Press enter. Connection to server and socket failed. That I did not expect. it should take you so this command unfortunately doesn't actually work, and I think it doesn't work because it doesn't have the permission to actually declare. Even though you change the HBA configuration file to take all IP addresses, there is certain issues that is lingering, but we can do hostname -i. We can still resolve this issue. Let me take a look. And then you see is 192.168.1. I was expecting that this IP address should be taken arbitrarily because we have a star mark in our PGHBA configuration file, but still it didn't. So the way we're gonna do it is we have another command that we can issue, and hopefully that command will help. And that command is PSQL -u guncat and then -d Postgres. Okay. So that takes you to the Postgres database. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. So, and asking you the password. So now you are there, and if you do /d, you see in the Postgres you have this. So that's one way of looking at it. Okay, and then you can exit from here. That's fine. And then you can do Postgres again, PSQL -u guncat, and then we created a directory called, we created a database called wildcats. Okay, guncat -d wildcats. Okay, and then press enter, and then put out the next-gen session and password, and it should work. So you're the wildcat database. So it does work in some extent. /u to out. Okay, so all we have done here is basically we need to copy all that, select all, and it does work. So it's everything's just working out fine. So what we do need to do is we're gonna connect this dbeaver from the dbeaver database, and that I'll conclude this lecture after that. Okay, so I know there's a lot of complications there, but we have resolved 99% of the complications without any issues. So this is all good. Control V and save that. And now what we need to do from here, so PostgreSQL is nicely done, clear that. The only problem we're left with is basically we can't do PSQL or PSQL, and then it does help us to get into our system with the Postgres, but it doesn't help us to get into our system without you know, the guncat things and the guncat. Okay, so that shouldn't be any issue. So for example, if you do PSQL -u Postgres, there shouldn't be any issue. So you can put out the password, which is manQS69, and then you are in /, but it will not work. PostgreSQL, PSQL, sorry, PSQL -u guncat. Okay, and this is something to do with the permission issue. Okay, so it asks you the password. It's a connection error, but that problem is not a major problem, because that problem I can show you. That problem will not be existing. So in your dbeaver, I'm going to show you how to do that. So we have not installed dbeaver right now. So what we're going to do in here is when we install dbeaver, and we're going to go into our Firefox. Okay, and then we go and type dbeaver right here. And then so when you come to dbeaver, the one we need is go to downloads and then go straight into your Linux Debian package installer, and that .deb file. Okay, so that's the file that you need. And that file, the way you're going to work with that file is basically through what we call is .deb, issuing a command on .deb. Okay, and I'm just trying to find out. I can't remember that command actually. We're gonna go into look into the commands, and we solve that issue from there. Dpackage command. Okay, so that is the command. It's called dpackage. Okay, so with that command we can resolve that issue very quickly. Okay, so what we need to do as a root. Okay, so this is actually gone in there, so you can see your downloads. In the downloads directory you have the .deb package. Okay, so that's cool. And we don't need Firefox. Okay, so we can come out from Firefox now. Okay, so click that, and what we need to do is this file, that Postgres Debian installation txt, we're gonna keep that file open. Okay, but I remember I got a file in documents or somewhere, PGHBA configuration file. Okay, so this file, what we need to do, we need to give we need to go to properties and go to permission. We're going to change the permission from root, and in order to do that, what we need to do is basically documents, open that as a root, open as root. Okay, and then we can do it in different way as well. So that's one way of looking at it. So this file, go to properties and then go, this is your original file actually. Okay, so we're gonna do it like this is Megan. So you find Megan somewhere, ABCDLM Megan cat. So you give him permission, a group, just give the same permission to Megan. Okay, read and write, read and write, read and write, and that will work just fine. Okay, and close it. Okay, so now that this part is done, now if you go back to your documents, you should be able to open that file. So we are always going to open it in gedit file. Okay, for now. Okay, so you go into gedit, that's cool. So press that, and this is your original file. Remember, in the PGHBA configuration. So these are the changes we made. So we changed peer to method. So that our peer was changed to MD5. These are all changed to MD5. Instead of MD5, we have other options to change it to something called all. I think that probably would have been solved that issue. Let's just take a look now. For now, so just keep that open, and then what we need to do, we need to do the dpackage. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the command line here and do su-l. Let's see what happens. So our target is basically to fire up your PostgreSQL database from dbeaver. So we do cd root and then do cd/home/megan/downloads, and then ls-l, you see that particular dev file. So the command is dpackage, dpkg -i, okay, and then dbeaver. So dbeaver, here we go, and press enter. And what happens is going to install your dbeaver package. So now that is done. So we go back into our programming. You see dbeaver right here. So what we can do, add to panel. So now fire up the dbeaver. So it says Universal Database Manager. Okay, that's all cool. Now confirm it. So do not share data, confirm it. Okay, so that's cool. No. Right, that's cool. So from here, if you in here, so just click that connect button right here. So, or you can click that PostgreSQL. That one you're looking for is PostgreSQL connected. So you come into this particular screen right here. Okay. So now it's important because we're gonna make some changes right here. Okay. So you have under main, make sure it's host. Okay. So that's fine. And while we're looking here, the local host, or we can put down the IP address. Okay, so we're looking at IP address is 192.168.1.236 as far as I remember. So you can always check it from here, hostname -i. So that's it. So that's your host name or IP address. Okay, so host 191, and like I said to you before, PostgreSQL is sent to 5432. So the database we are looking at is Wildcats. Okay, let's say we're looking at Wildcats database. There's nothing there, and then the username. This is important. So the username, we don't want Postgres because we created a username called Greencat. Okay, and the password for the username is Neptune69. Okay, and then what we do need to do, so we need show template databases. Show databases not available for connection. That I'm not sure at the moment. Driver properties. So this is important. So as soon as you click driver properties, it will come to JDBC because it needs that Java, the Java software to do this. So click download. This is the first time you do it, and then you go back to main. So this is on the for first time and test connection and connection test and connected. So that's all good. So you can with DBware you can easily get into Greencat, and it will work with PostgreSQL as well. So if you change that Wildcats database to Postgres, for example, Postgres, okay, and then username change the username to Postgres as well, and make sure that the password for Postgres username is Pantera69. Okay, and then test connection, and it should be connected. There is Postgres. Oh, so it's a spelling mistakes here. You see, Postgres. Okay, so Postgres. That's all. Look, test connection, and you should be okay connected. Okay, so and finish, and you are connected with PostgreSQL databases. So under databases, you got file Postgres, schemas. Look into schemas and look into public, and then go into tables. And you have all these tables in here. There's no tables here actually at the moment, so that's all okay. So it's all good, so just keep it that way. And having said all that, everything's worked out just fine. So in my next lectures, what I plan to do is I wanna show you how to work with pgadmin, which you need for your Postgres. So the Postgres working absolutely fine in your Debian 13. It has a lot of issues in Debian 12, and we saw pretty much all the issues. So at this point, I'm going to conclude this lecture because it's gotten quite long. How long is it? Let's take a look. So it's gone nearly 50 minutes. So let's just finish this lecture in 50 minutes. So that's not too bad. And so we done a lot of it. So what we have covered, we covered PostgreSQL installations into Debian 13. There's a lot of hitches there, and I tried to cover pretty much everything. Because I have not used PostgreSQL for a while because I work in Java, MySQL databases, that's more common, but PostgreSQL is also critically important. So kind of few things that I kind of hitched and kind of humbled and bubbled up a little bit, but I did manage to humble around. You know what I mean? Humbled, not bubbled, humbled. So I did manage to humbled and get few things resolved into my favor. There are a few hitches here and there, but these are really not an issue. Okay, so everything's worked out fine. So you need PostgreSQL installed into Debian 13 without any hitches. Okay, and that's the most important thing. It's created a username and we worked out just fine. So hopefully everything should be cool, And I'll look forward to looking for new lectures. The page admin installations into PostgreSQL, that is something that we really need to work on.